Stand aside, soft one. You're the last thing between us and the princess. That's exactly why you're not leaving this corridor.
The Vaelthari called humans the soft ones. Not as an insult, simply as a fact. Soft bones. Soft skin. Soft hearts. In a galaxy full of species armored by evolution, humans were the anomaly. The fragile experiment that somehow survived long enough to reach the stars. Professor Elias Vance had heard it 1,000 times. He didn't mind. He sat in his modest quarters aboard the diplomatic station Aurelius, grading linguistic exercises with a red stylus. 43 years old. Thin. Reading glasses perched on his nose. A man who looked like he'd spent his whole life in libraries, because he had. On the desk beside him sat a small holographic photograph. A woman and a young girl. Both smiling. Both gone now, 7 years back, in a shuttle accident over Kepler Station. Elias never talked about it. He just worked. His current assignment was unusual even by Galactic standards. He had been selected, out of 11,000 applicants, to tutor Princess Sova'ael, the only daughter of High Chancellor Marin of the Vaelthari Dominion. A civilization 3,000 years older than humanity. A species that controlled 41 star systems and had never once lost a war. They chose Elias not despite his quiet nature, but because of it. Sova'ael was 17. Brilliant, curious, lonely in the way that only royalty can be. She called Elias Professor Soft Eyes and laughed when he corrected her grammar. He let her. She was learning to understand humans, and he was learning that she was worth protecting. He did not own a weapon. He did not need one. Not yet. The mercenaries hit the station at 0300. 12 of them. Drassian, mostly, reptilian, broad-chested, augmented with subdermal combat plating. The kind of crew that carved through security teams the way fire moves through paper. They were hired by a rival Vaelthari noble house, the kind of political transaction that bought and sold lives without blinking. They took Sova'ael from her chamber in 40 seconds flat. The station's automated alarm screamed. Emergency bulkheads dropped. And in the chaos, Elias Vance found himself standing in the corridor outside the princess's sealed room, wearing a grey cardigan, holding a cup of cold tea. He heard her scream. One word. Just his name. Professor. The lead mercenary stepped into the corridor. 8 feet tall. Eyes like hammered copper. He looked at the human the way a boulder looks at a pebble, with no particular feeling at all. Stand aside, soft one, he said in broken Galactic common. Or I'll step on you. Elias set down his tea. He looked at the mercenary. Then at the 5 soldiers behind him. Then at the sealed cargo door at the far end of the hall, behind which he could hear Sova'ael crying. He took off his glasses. Folded them. Tucked them into his breast pocket. The mercenary laughed, a deep, grinding sound like tectonic plates shifting. He turned to his crew. They sent a teacher. The crew laughed with him. They were still laughing when Elias moved. Here is what the Vaelthari didn't know. What no one in the Dominion had bothered to read in his file. Before Professor Elias Vance taught linguistics, before the glasses and the cardigan and the quiet life among books, he served 11 years in the Terran Special Operations Command. Deep insertion. Black budget. The kind of unit that didn't appear in official records because the missions it ran never officially happened. He had been extracted from that life by grief. But grief does not erase muscle memory. His body remembered everything. The first mercenary's weapon was in Elias's hand before the laughter finished. He'd rotated the wrist, felt the precise crack of the joint giving way, stripped the rifle clean in one motion. He fired twice, stun settings, and 2 soldiers dropped before anyone registered that the soft one had moved. The third came with a blade. Long, serrated, Drassian forged. Beautiful weapon. Elias broke the attacking arm at the elbow, redirected the momentum, and used the mercenary's own falling weight to drive the blade into the floor plating where it stuck. He did not speak. He did not rage. He moved through them with the terrible efficiency of a man who had made peace with what he was capable of and simply did the math. By the time the lead mercenary finally charged, all 8 feet and 200 kilograms of armored reptile, Elias had already calculated the angle. He dropped low, let the charge carry over him, found the gap between the combat plating at the base of the neck with practiced fingers, and applied pressure to the neural cluster buried there. The giant hit the floor like a collapsed building. 12 mercenaries. 41 seconds. Elias retrieved his glasses from his breast pocket. Put them back on. He walked to the cargo door and overrode the lock with his station clearance code. Sova'ael stood against the far wall, shaking, eyes wide. She looked at him. At the corridor behind him. At the still figures littered across the floor. "Professor," she whispered. "You're uninjured," he said calmly. "Are you hurt?" She shook her head slowly. "Good." He picked up his tea from where he'd set it on the floor. "Still warm. Then let's get you back to your quarters. You have a grammar examination in 6 hours." The incident report reached High Chancellor Marin of the Vaelthari Dominion before dawn. She read it 3 times. 1 human male. No armor. No combat augmentation. No support. Had neutralized an elite 12-person Drassian extraction unit, some of the most feared hired soldiers in the outer systems, in less than a minute. With his hands. While protecting a ward. The Chancellor summoned her senior military advisor. "Tell me about the humans again," she said. "The soft ones." The advisor stood very still. "Chancellor," he said carefully, "I think we may have been reading the wrong data. 41 star systems. 3,000 years of unbroken victories. An empire that had never once considered a species of fragile, short-lived, soft-boned creatures to be anything worth fearing. They had made a mistake so old and so common it didn't even have a name anymore. They had looked at what humans appeared to be. And forgotten to ask what humans are." Elias Vance returned to his desk. Opened his gradebook. Finished marking Sova'ael's exercises. He gave her full marks on the section about human idioms. She'd finally understood the phrase "still waters run deep." He circled it with his red stylus. Outside the viewport, the stars burned cold and silent across a galaxy that was slowly, finally, learning the same lesson. You do not measure a species by its softness. You measure it by what it protects, and what it becomes when that is threatened. Humanity defiant.